Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the second module of the chapter, the cherry tree. Now, in this module, you are going to comprehend the text. You will understand what is defining relative clause and what is non-defining relative clause, and you will also be able to distinguish between defining and non-defining relative clauses. Let's revisit. Let's go back to our last class. My first question is, why did Rakesh live with his grandfather? Second one, how according to the grandfather will the cherry seed become lucky? Third one, how did Rakesh and his dada spend evenings during winter? And fourth question, how did Rakesh know that it was spring? So now, are you able to answer these questions? Okay, then let's move on. Now let's have the self. Now we stopped where Rakesh had planted the tree and he forgot everything about that. And now let's see what happens then. One morning in the garden, Rakesh bent to pick up what he thought was a small twig. He found to his surprise that it was well rooted. He ran to fetch grandfather, calling, Dada, come and look, the cherry tree has come up. What cherry tree? Asked grandfather. The seed we planted last year. Look! They both bent down and peered at the tiny tree. Yes, it's a cherry tree, said grandfather. You should water it now and then. Rakesh went indoors and came back with a watering can. So both Rakesh and his grandfather had forgotten everything about this cherry tree. And one day, as Rakesh was picking up twigs, I hope you know what is twigs. It is like small branches of tree, which is dry. We use it as fuel for burning. Okay, so as he was picking, he thought it was a twig and he was trying to pick it up. Then he knew that it was rooted. That time he remembered this was where I planted the cherry tree and it has come up. So he called his Dada in excitement. Dada also, when he came, he had forgotten everything about the cherry tree, and when he saw this, he was excited. He said, "Yes, this is the cherry tree. It has come up. Now you have to water it now and then. Once in a while, you have to water it." So he went inside to take the watering can. Rakesh. Don't drown it, said grandfather, laughing. Rakesh gave it a sprinkling and circled it with pebbles. What are the pebbles for? Grandfather asked. For privacy, Rakesh said. That year the monsoon rains came early. Sprang from the trunks of trees, and the trees dripped as the mist came curling up the valley. The cherry tree grew quickly in this season. It was about 2 feet high when a goat entered the garden and ate all the leaves. Only the main stem and the two thin branches remained. Oh, that's sad. See, so as Rakesh was going to water uh, grandfather was telling, you should not pour so much of water, it will get drowned. Just sprinkle the water. So Rakesh sprinkled and he circled the tree with pebbles to understand that the tree is there, that this is the cherry tree, and to give it a privacy so that no one would pluck it off thinking that it is some kind of weed. So he circled it with pebbles. And that year, during the monsoon season came early, and during that season, the tree grew quickly. It became big fast. But at that time, a god came to their garden and it ate up all the leaves, and only the main stem was remaining. Rakesh was really upset, very sad. He thought that it won't grow again. The cherry tree has died. Never mind, said grandfather, seeing that Rakesh was upset. It will grow again. Cherry trees are tough. Towards the end of the rainy season, new leaves appeared on the tree. Then a woman cutting grass came down the hillside, her scythe swishing through the heavy monsoon foliage. She did not try to avoid the tree. One sweep, and the cherry tree was cut in two. When grandfather saw what had happened, he went after the woman and scolded her, but the damage could not be repaired. Maybe it will die now, said Rakesh. But the cherry tree had no intention of dying. By the time summer came around again, it had sent out several new shoots with tender green leaves. Rakesh had grown taller too. He was 8 now, a sturdy boy with curly black hair and deep black eyes. One day he found a bright green praying mantis perched on a branch. It was Cherry Tree's first visitor. The next visitor was a hairy caterpillar who started eating the leaves. Rakesh removed it quickly and dropped it on a heap of dry leaves. So when Rakesh's grandfather saw that he was very upset, he tried to console him. He said, "No, it will grow again. Cherry trees are strong. They are powerful. They can grow again." So towards the end of the rainy season, again something happened. A lady who was cutting grass came and cut the tree in two. Um, so Rakesh's grandfather went after the lady and scolded her when he saw this. But the damage could not be repaired. So Rakesh, this time he was sure the cherry tree would die. But the cherry tree, it was strong. It did not die. Again, during the summer season, it sent out several shoots. Many new branches and leaves were coming out. Rakesh, by that time, Rakesh also had grown. He had become a handsome boy with curly black hair and deep black eyes. And one day, as he was walking through the garden, he saw that there was a first visitor for his cherry tree. It was a praying mantis. Um, and then he saw another visitor another day. That was second visitor was a caterpillar. He took out the caterpillar who was trying to eat the leaves and he threw it onto a heap of dry leaves. And the he told the caterpillar that come back when you're a butterfly. Now let's read. Come back when you're a butterfly, he said. Winter came early. The cherry tree bent low with the weight of snow. Then in February, it was Rakesh's birthday. He was 9 and the tree was 3. But it was almost as tall as Rakesh. One morning, when the sun came out, grandfather went into the garden. He stared at the cherry tree and then called out, Rakesh, come and look. Rakesh and grandfather gazed at the tree. There was a pale pink blossom at the end of the branch. The following year there were more blossoms, and suddenly the tree was taller than Rakesh, and then it was taller than grandfather, who was older than some oak trees. But Rakesh had grown too. He could run, jump, and climb trees as well as most boys, and he read a lot. So, um, when Rakesh was 9 and the tree was 3, Rakesh's grandfather called him out one day in excitement. He wanted to show Rakesh that there were blossoms uh, on the tree. There were flowers on the tree. It had bloomed. Okay, so Rakesh was excited. And in the next years, there were more blossoms. And Rakesh also grew up, but the cherry tree grew up, was taller than Rakesh, and he was tall. The cherry tree was became taller than his grandfather too. He used to read a lot of books. Rakesh, as he grew up, he was interested in books as well as he was interested in his grandfather's stories too. Of books, although he still liked listening to grandfather's stories. Bees came to feed on the nectar in the blossoms of the tree, and tiny birds pecked at the blossoms and broke them off. The tree kept blossoming. That summer, there were small cherries on the tree. Rakesh tasted one and spat it out. It's too sour, he said. They'll be better next year, grandfather replied. A few days later, on a warm sunny afternoon, Rakesh went into the garden and lay down on the grass beneath the tree. He gazed up through the leaves at the great blue sky. Grandfather came out too, and they waited in silence until the stars came out. So, uh, time was flying, and Rakesh was witnessing everything, the growth of the cherry tree. And bees came to feed on the nectar of the of the blossoms of the cherry tree, and some tiny birds they pecked, and the blossoms fell off, but still the cherry tree kept on blossoming. And one day Rakesh saw a cherry on the cherry tree, and he just took it out and he ate it, but it was too sour. He spat it out. He said it's too sour, but grandfather said in the next year, this is the first year it's giving you a cherry. Next year it would, the cherry's taste would become better next year. And one day, grandfather and Rakesh laid down beneath the cherry tree. They were looking into the blue sky, and they laid down there till it was night. There are so many trees in the forest, said Rakesh. Why do we like this tree so much? Because we planted it ourselves, said grandfather. Just one small seed, said Rakesh, and he touched the smooth bark of the tree that had grown. I wonder, he whispered, is this what it feels like to be God? So he said, there are so many trees, but why do we like this one so much? So his grandfather said, it is because you planted the tree. It is because we planted this tree. That's why we love this tree so much. So Rakesh was asking, he was feeling so happy. He was feeling so content in his mind because he was the one who planted, and it became a big tree. It is giving cherry now. So he created the tree. He felt like he created the tree. So he was asking his grandfather. So is it how it feels like to be God? God is creating things. So God will be very content when he see all these things blossoming and growing. Even we people, when we are growing, God will be feeling like, oh, this is my creation. It is growing. So Rakesh was asking, is this what God feels? Just like what I feel now. So that's end of the story. I hope you liked it. Now let's go to the self-check questions. My first question is, how was the cherry tree damaged two times? Now, who was the first visitor of the cherry tree? Who was the second visitor of the cherry tree? What did Rakesh feel like in the end of the story? As Rakesh grew up, what were his interests? Learn the new words we came across today. The first one was scythe. Scythe, the woman who was cutting grass, she cut the cherry tree into with her scythe. It is a tool with sharp curved blade and a long handle used to, especially to cut long grass. See the picture. Now another one is praying mantis. This is a praying mantis. We call it in Malayalam. We call it pulchadi, pulponda, something like that. Okay, so that is praying mantis. Now let's learn. We already learned what is relative clause in our last class in module 1 of the cherry tree. Now let's see how many types of relative clauses are there. There is defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause. Relative clauses are always added to the main clause to give additional information about the uh, main clause. So now when we give additional information, there are two types of additional informations. One is defining and the other one is non-defining. Let's see what it is. Now, defining relative clause adds essential information, which means that it is an important information about the sentence. We might, to get the clear idea of what is said, we might need this information. But non-defining clauses, it adds additional information. It is just a casual information. Even if that is not there, nothing will happen to the sentence. If you take it away also, you get the clear idea, you can get the meaning, you can get the idea of the sentence. Defining relative clauses are not set off by commas. In the sentence, it is not separated by commas because you cannot easily take it off. If you take it off, there will be some kind of non-clarity for the sentence. So that is not separated by commas, defining relative clause. Non-defining relative clauses are set off by commas. You often put a comma after, when you start a non-defining relative clause because you can remove it from the sentence. That's why it is separated. It is kept separated in the sentence. Defining relative clauses can begin with that. Non-defining relative clauses do not begin with the word that. Defining relative clauses are also known as restrictive relative clauses because it is important to add up to the information of the sentence. Non-defining relative clauses are also known as non-restrictive relative clauses. Now let's see some examples. Defining and non-defining relative clauses. A defining relative clause tells which noun we are talking about. I like the person who lives next door. So if I don't say who lives next door, then we don't know which person I mean. If you don't add this clause, you will not understand which person you are talking about. I like the person. Which person, who, what, nothing is said. So that is a defining relative clause because it gives an important information about the person, about this person. That's why who lives next door is a defining clause. Now see, here it is non-defining clause. I live in London, which has some fantastic parts. Even see, this is separated by commas. See, which has, everybody knows what London is, where London is. So even if you say I live in London, the sentence is clear. It just gives some additional information about London. Even if this information is not there, the sentence is clear. So that is non-defining relative clause. Now you have your TMLA. This is your TMLA. It's in your textbook, the grammar section B. What you have to do is, you have to circle the relative clause in the sentence, and if it is defining relative clause, write D on it, and if it is non-defining, just write ND on it. That's your TMLA. That's all for today. Thank you for listening, my dear children. Take care. Bye-bye.